For 40 years, one man convinced millions of American hunters that a single cartridge could do everything. Every month, in the most widely read hunting magazine in the country, that message went out again, printed on slick paper, mailed to subscribers from Maine to Montana, and absorbed like scripture by a generation of men who trusted the voice behind it. The claim was never questioned. The magazine never pushed back. And the man selling it knew, by the end of his life, that he had oversold it. He just never said so in print. The .270 Winchester arrived in 1925, chambered in the Winchester Model 54-bolt action. Winchester built it by necking down the 30-06 case, squeezing it to accept a .277-inch bullet. The resulting round drove a 130-grain projectile at an advertised 3,100 feet per second, genuinely fast for the era. The trajectory was flatter than the .30-06, with comparable bullet weights. Recoil was manageable. On deer-sized game at field distances, it performed cleanly. As a hunting cartridge for the American West, where shots often ran long and the game was mostly deer, pronghorn, and sheep, it made real, practical sense. Nobody, then or now, disputes that the .270 is a capable cartridge for that work. The shooting editor of Outdoor Life, Jack O'Connor, was 23 years old when Winchester brought out the Model 54. He bought one in 1925, the first year it was available, and liked it immediately. He was not yet a gunwriter. He was a young man in the Arizona Territory who liked to shoot jackrabbits and coyotes and Coe's whitetails in the scrub desert. The .270 suited him naturally for that terrain, open country, clean shots, no animal requiring deep penetration or bone-breaking mass. He filed it away, moved on with his life, teaching journalism at the University of Arizona, writing a pair of novels, chasing a writing career that was going to take him somewhere he hadn't planned. Then, in 1934, he started contributing to Outdoor Life. The rise was steady and fast. Chief gun columnist by 1936. Arms and ammunition editor by 1941. Shooting editor. The top gun chair at the most powerful hunting publication in America by 1945. And somewhere in that climb, the .270 stopped being a cartridge Jack O'Connor used and became the cartridge Jack O'Connor was. His first sheep hunt in Sonora in 1935 went with the .270. He hunted elk with it. He carried it into the mountains of British Columbia and the high country of Idaho and the sheep basins of the Yukon. He wrote about it every chance he got, filling column after column with accounts of one-shot kills, flat trajectories, and the clean, efficient performance that a well-placed .270 bullet delivered in his hands. The prose was sharp and specific and deeply persuasive. He had a gift that most gun writers never develop, the ability to put you in the field with him, smelling the sage, feeling the cold, watching the animal go down. Returning veterans after World War II were buying rifles and learning to hunt, and O'Connor was their guide, their teacher, the authoritative voice in the magazine they picked up at the barbershop. They trusted him completely. Hundreds of thousands of them walked into gun shops and asked for what the man in Outdoor Life had recommended. It is difficult now to convey just how much weight that recommendation carried. There was no internet, no competing forum, no algorithm surfacing a contradictory opinion. There was Outdoor Life, with its monthly circulation in the millions. And there was Jack O'Connor's column near the front of it, and for a working hunter in 1952, or 1960, or 1968, that column was as close to expert authority as most of them would ever get. A gunsmith might disagree. A guide might have a different opinion. But the guide's opinion stayed in the elk camp. O'Connor's opinion went home with every subscriber in America. By the 1980s, some observers were calling the .270 the second most popular rifle cartridge in America, trailing only the .30-06. A 1985 poll of 75 top American gunsmiths and rifle builders named it the #1 choice for custom rifle work. That did not happen because the ballistics demanded it. It happened because one man, in one magazine, repeated the same message for 4 decades, and nobody in a position to push back ever did. What they were not told was that the .270 was never quite as universal as the campaign implied. O'Connor did hunt elk with the .270 his entire career. By one account, he took 21 bull elk across those decades, 17 of them with the cartridge he championed in print. He made it work. But he made it work with careful shot placement, premium bullets by the standards of his era, and the kind of hard-won field discipline that most of the readers absorbing his monthly gospel simply did not possess. The cartridge he was describing in print was a cartridge that rewarded expert hunters with favorable conditions. Broadside shots, reasonable distances, controlled situations where the first round could be placed precisely. O'Connor was one of the finest shots and most disciplined hunters in mid-century America. He was describing his own results, in his own hands, on his own hunts, and presenting them month after month as a general endorsement for every hunter who read the column. The .270 does carry adequate energy for elk hunting at moderate ranges with proper bullet construction. A 130 grain or 150 grain bullet from a quality lot retains roughly 1,500 foot-pounds of energy out to 400 yards, right at the minimum threshold that most experienced elk guides consider the bottom of acceptable. But a threshold is not a margin. Threshold means the floor, not the comfortable center. And hunting elk in the timber, or at steep angles, or in cold weather when animals go hard, or with a second shot needed fast because the first opened too fast on shoulder bone, those are not floor conditions. Those are the conditions American elk hunters walked into, with .270 Winchesters on their shoulders, because Jack O'Connor had told them the round would handle whatever they threw at it. What the .270 quietly could not do as well, what the ballistics showed and the field experience of guides and outfitters repeatedly confirmed, was perform with the margin of energy and bullet mass that heavy game reliably demanded. The bore diameter was narrow. The heaviest practical bullet weights stopped at 150 grains without a significant velocity penalty. On large elk in heavy cover, those limits mattered. Not always, not even often, in skilled hands. But enough that the silence around those limits, maintained for 4 decades in the nation's most trusted gun magazine, amounted to an editorial choice, a decision, made or drifted into, to let a great story continue rather than complicate it. Elmer Keith, O'Connor's great antagonist at Guns and Ammo, called the .270 a damned adequate coyote cartridge. That was hyperbole. Keith was a .458 man who considered anything below .30 caliber a diplomatic mistake. But the technical core of his objection had merit. For heavy game in real elk country, the .270's lighter bullets and narrower bore left less room for error than O'Connor's monthly columns ever acknowledged. O'Connor's standing reply was that shot placement matters more than caliber, and he was correct. A precisely placed .270 bullet kills elk cleanly. The problem is that shot placement matters most is a reason to train, not a reason to send a first-time elk hunter into the Selkirk Mountains with a cartridge that demands precision to compensate for what it lacks in mass. O'Connor knew the difference. He was too experienced not to. The evidence that he knew it does not come from his columns. It comes from a private conversation documented by his successor at Outdoor Life, Jim Carmichael. Carmichael was having a custom rifle built and, as gun writers do, mentioned it to O'Connor. He told O'Connor the rifle would be chambered in .270 Winchester, expecting approval from the man who had spent his entire career endorsing it. O'Connor stopped him. "Don't," he said. "Have it made in .280 Remington. "It's a better cartridge." Carmichael later wrote about that exchange in Outdoor Life itself, in the same magazine where O'Connor had spent 4 decades elevating the .270 to near religious status. O'Connor, privately, having hunted extensively with both rounds, had concluded that the .280 Remington was the superior choice for serious hunting. The .280 ran on the same basic case as the .30-06, essentially the same parent cartridge as the .270, but pushed a slightly larger, heavier bullet. It offered bullet weights up to 160 and 175 grains, with sectional densities that outperformed the .270 on larger game. It did everything the .270 did and extended its usable range into heavier work without requiring a magnum case or punishing recoil. In O'Connor's own private assessment, it was the smarter answer. He never wrote that in his column. And when it came time to commission his final custom rifle, the last rifle Jack O'Connor ever ordered, stocked by Albizen on a Ruger Model 77 action in figured French walnut, it was not chambered in .270 Winchester. O'Connor ordered it in .280 Remington. He died in January of 1978 before he ever saw it finished. The rifle was completed. The chambering was documented. The man who had been the .270's most effective advocate for 4 decades had, in the final chapter of his life, made a different choice, and made it deliberately, without announcing it, without offering his readers the explanation they deserved. That is not a footnote. That is the ending of the whole story. How does this happen? How does a gun writer of O'Connor's caliber, and he was genuinely brilliant, genuinely knowledgeable, a better prose stylist than anyone else in his field, spend 4 decades promoting a cartridge he had private reservations about? The answer is not simple and does not reduce cleanly to corruption. O'Connor genuinely liked the .270. He killed an enormous quantity of game with it, cleanly, across 50 years of hunting. His enthusiasm was real. What became complicated was the scale and duration of the campaign. The way the monthly column became an institution. The way his name became synonymous with a single caliber recommendation. And the way departing from that position publicly would have required a reckoning he was never willing to initiate. He had built his entire editorial identity around one cartridge. Walking away in print would have meant admitting the oversell. Admitting the oversell would have meant 40 years of columns requiring qualification. It was easier, and perhaps more human, to say the honest thing privately. To tell Carmichael, to order the last rifle in the .280, to let the record speak in small, private ways, than to write the column that would have corrected the record for the readers who needed it most. There is also the matter of O'Connor's relationship with Winchester. The sources indicate he worked for Winchester in some promotional capacity during his career, associated with their products, traveling on hunting trips funded in part through that relationship, writing favorably about their platforms across decades of columns. The precise nature and terms of that arrangement are not fully documented in the public record. What is documented is that such arrangements between gun writers and manufacturers were common in that era, rarely disclosed to readers, and almost never discussed openly in the pages of the magazines that ran the columns. That context does not make O'Connor a liar in the simple sense of the word. His field performance was real. His knowledge was genuine. His writing endures because it was honest about what he saw and felt and experienced in the field. But his public position, the consistent, unwavering, 4-decade endorsement of one cartridge as the universal answer, was shaped by forces that had nothing to do with ballistics. The .270 Winchester is still with us, still sold in every rifle catalogue, still carried into elk country every fall by hunters who know it works in the right hands. Nothing in this account changes the cartridge's capability. It is a genuinely good round. The argument was never that it couldn't perform. The argument is that it was sold as something it wasn't, a universal answer, adequate for every animal in North America, in any hands at any range. Promoted month after month with no asterisk, no caveat, no honest accounting of where it stopped being the right tool. What this account changes is the frame. One man's column in one magazine, running for 44 years without a meaningful correction or qualification, defined what a generation of American hunters carried into the field, not entirely because it was the best answer for every situation, but because it was his answer, tied to his identity, maintained through his career, and never once questioned by the editors who ran it. Jim Carmichael knew the truth. Al Beeson built the truth. The .280 Remington, finished in French walnut, waiting in a gun safe for a man who never came home to pick it up, was the truth. The column never changed. Outdoor Life ran it to the end and never published the correction. The readers never found out.